Hey, what's up, bro?
What's going on, man? I'm crunching my chips. So
Yeah, looks
might
like we
have to,
both we
yeah,
both had a little like just trouble connecting this morning.
yeah.
Uh,
So I'm doing single dog dad duty while
that's
Shanna's
right.
away.
She's
So
gone. Okay. Yeah,
they're
she's not there.
they're yeah, they're looking at me. They think everything revolves around them. Like every time I get up, every time I move, they're like,
Mm-hmm.
"Okay, you're gonna do something for us now." I'm like, "No, not
Mm-hmm.
really. I was just going to the other room." And that's
Yeah.
all.
It ain't all
They
that.
all
It ain't all that, dogs. Just calm down.
I know. And so Sam is just sitting here, just sitting here, and Rachel's behind me. So yeah, and I don't know where Chico is, but
Somewhere.
yeah. So I just that was a little bit of the delay because I had to feed him dinner and everything,
Yeah, yeah.
take
No,
him out,
no. Yeah.
bathroom break and stuff. So
Had some stuff over here too. That's just the way it is. Stuff pops
yes.
up and yep, just gotta take care of it. But
hmm
bro, how's it been, man, since our epic visit only a
It's
few
been
weeks ago
good.
after this?
It's been good. Just things going smoothly. I say smoothly-ish actually, because there's
Mm.
there's so much extra stuff that's going on. You're getting back into work and the swing of
Mm-hmm.
things.
Yeah, yeah,
So that takes a little bit of
yeah.
uh, recovery time, right? Because you got to
Yep.
check all
All
the
the time.
emails and yeah, exactly. But in
Every
terms of
time.
stuff around here, stuff is going really well, and
Cool.
we're alternating our travel schedules, of course. So now that I'm back,
Mm-hmm.
she's gone back to San Antonio for a little while.
Nice.
And yeah, I'm online right now trying to learn how to do self-taping because
Self-taping. What's
yeah,
that?
self-tape for an audition for like if you're trying to audition for a role or a part or something like that.
Mm.
So I'm learning about all the lighting and the audio and stuff like that. There's definitely a science to it, and you need to kind of respect the folks who do it. You can't just hold up your phone and start recording.
Yeah.
So that's kind of what I'm looking at today. Um,
Nice.
yeah, I
That's
just
right. Yeah, I don't think a lot of people know that, like that listen to this podcast. Ajani is, I would have never thought it, but I mean, he's getting into acting. He's getting into,
yeah.
and maybe you can talk about that real quick.
Really, no, it's real brief. There's nothing to say
What?
at this point. But yeah, no, it's looking at acting and maybe some print work or something like that. And I just got an email for a potential opportunity, and I've got like 2 days to learn how to do a self tape.
Whoa,
So
wow.
yeah, I mean that's
Congratulations.
that's that's how it goes. I mean, it's not.
The
So you never
biz.
you
You're
never you
breaking
never
in.
count your chickens, right? But
Hey, man.
at the same time, I mean, this is just the kind of short suspense, deadline that
Mm-hmm.
that'll get you to just go through the pain of learning and setting everything up.
Exactly.
And I
Yeah,
think
it's
like
good.
just for a general push, there's a lot of I feel like there's a lot of things that we want to do, people want to do,
Mm.
but we know that the learning curve, the ramp up time, the preparation, whatever you
Yeah,
call it,
it's
takes
high.
so much
It does.
that you never get motivated to do it. And
Mm.
sometimes, you need something to come down and say, this gig pays a lot. You got 2 days. You
Hey,
you take the kick in the butt and you're like, okay, I'm
you
gonna
in
do
or
what I
out.
can.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. So
nice.
yeah, that's been taking up my night. It's probably gonna take up today and tomorrow because that's all I have to
Yeah,
work on it.
for sure. Well, I hope it goes well, man. I hope it. Yeah, I know when you were here, we talked about that. Like you, I didn't know you did a whole commercial. You did a whole, well, you did a demo.
The
Like
demo,
you
yes,
did the
yeah.
demo, and yeah, it was funny. I'm not gonna ask him to do it now. If he wants to do it, he can do it. But
I'm not gonna do it.
he's not gonna
No,
do it.
no, no.
Okay, okay. It's pretty funny though. I thought it was really well done. Just like
All right, well,
let me send this message to Joanna.
uh,
Uh
I'm gonna mute myself while I crunch these chips because this chips
all
is gonna
right,
be my dinner for
okay,
right now.
cool. You go ahead. I guess the people they can just I don't know. Maybe I'll cut this part out later. Okay. Yeah. Yeah, it's been pretty since you left. Things have slowly started to ramp up for me. So
Mm-hmm.
basically, I've been doing a lot more spaces on X. And that's what I was thinking, man, it's nice to actually see you in person, like not in person, but see you on like camera. Because the X
Mm.
spaces, you get so used to just talking to
Oh,
little circles of people. You've
oh,
probably never have you ever seen a
I have
space?
not. No.
So what it is you go into it's so minimalist. And it's crazy
Mm,
that this format has just taken off, but essentially you get like a square of your if you're on mobile, it takes up the whole screen, but it's just circles. It's just people's profile pictures.
mm-hmm.
And there'll be a topic typically, and there'll be a host or maybe two or three co-hosts or whatever, and they're in charge of the whole space. And people will come in
Mm-hmm.
and their little circles will appear.
Uh,
And the only thing you can do is do emojis, or you can request to speak, or you can like make more posts about
mm,
the space. So you
hmm,
can't really do a lot in these spaces.
hmm.
So that's why it's kind of interesting that this format has taken off so much. I at least find it interesting because it is kind of
Yeah, yeah,
a weird type of it's if you look at the interface, you'd be like, this is what everybody's talking about? Like this is
yeah.
a space? Like it doesn't look like anything.
I think all of us who got used to keeping our cameras off on Zoom, maybe it gives a little
Yeah,
bit of
exactly.
semi-anonymity for,
True, true. And a lot of people on X, Twitter are anonymous. So they,
mm,
they have some type of profile name, but essentially that's it. And these spaces kind of function as small rooms for people to come in and ask questions. There's been so many different formats. I've seen the traditional kind of like radio format that,
mm,
we'd be familiar with because that's what dad did. It's kind of a one-way type of thing, somebody just kind of
mm.
presenting information.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
There's also the interview format where they bring on just somebody who's related to the topic and they talk about it, and then they have a raise hand feature where you can
Mm,
request to speak and then you can ask questions or whatever. But then there's also kind of just like open forum ones that are more like, hey, just show up, talk, chill, as if you were in a room together chilling. And i
mm,
was I got up this morning to attend one. I got up at 3:30 this morning
hmm,
to attend one from a guy that I admire and respect. His name's
mm,
Dickie Bush, and he's one of the guys that did Ship 30 for 30, the
mm,
course,
mhm,
the online course that I did last year. Really, really awesome course. If you're listening and you want to do online writing, you should definitely look him up. But after that one, I found myself in another space with a guy I just met maybe like 2 or 3 weeks ago. He's down in Australia. His name's Redham. If you're listening to this, shout out Redham. And Gabriel. Gabriel's over in Brazil. Shout out Gabriel if you're listening to this. We just kind of ended up in a space together, and I came on. They
mhm.
were the title of the space is ChatGPT dead? At least originally it was. And
Okay.
then he changed it because he got
Uh-huh.
scared. He was like, I think I got shadow banned because using there's certain trigger words that the
Uh-huh.
almighty algorithm is
Uh-huh.
trained to like, you cannot use this word, blah, blah, blah. You should not use
Uh-huh.
dead, death, that type of thing.
Ah, gotcha.
So he changed it to something else. Is ChatGPT like going away or something like that? So I came in.
Mhm.
Anytime I see these kind of sensationalists, especially I
Yes.
use ChatGPT like every day,
Mhm.
at least a little bit. So I'm like, okay, what the hell is this? And I know this guy. So I was
Yeah.
like, okay, I'm gonna go in and see if I need to knock some heads and set the record straight.
Uh-huh.
And as soon as I got in there, they were like, oh, Keith's here. Um, he can talk about AI writing.
Uh-huh.
And so I get on there, and there was probably like 15 people in the space.
Uh-huh.
And I start talking about AI writing, which, as you know, I know a little bit of something about. And by the end, by the time I was done with my, I guess, soliloquy of AI writing, there was only three of us left. It was
No.
me, Redham, and Gabriel. And I was like, shit,
No.
man, I'm sorry. And I talked for like 15 minutes straight, but I wasn't just talking in circles. I was
Yeah, yeah.
really talking about my process and how I think about AI writing. And he was like, man, it was so good what you said. It was so awesome. And we ended up having a discussion. Point is, we ended up in this kind of just chill session to where
Yeah,
it
yeah,
wasn't a
yeah.
guru speak, it wasn't an interview. It was just like three guys hanging out as if we were having
Yeah.
beers together. And like, you know how when you have a meeting, the real
Yeah.
meeting is usually after the main
Yeah.
meeting.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
It's always like that. It's
Uh-huh.
like you have this, it's like we as humans, we have this protocol when we're like, yeah, 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 yes, sir, yes, ma'am, whatever.
Uh-huh.
And then it's after the meeting that the real shit happens. The real deals are made. The real value is exchanged. And
Hmm.
that's exactly the way it was
Ah. Uh-huh.
with this space. It was just this morning, too.
So the people came just to hear about what were they there
Well,
for?
they were there talking about it, and that's the thing with these spaces. Like they typically start with like a main idea, and then they'll
Mhm.
branch off, depending, especially if it's more of an
Yeah.
open forum, because people will ask questions, then the host will go off on a tangent, then they'll go off on a tangent, and if the conversation's good, just like any good conversation, it
Yeah.
will go in that direction. So
Mm.
they had been talking for a while, and I got in there like towards the tail end of the space, and it just so happened they were talking about using the AI for writing.
Mm.
And they were like, "Well, shit, Keith's here.
Yeah. Yeah.
He's writing with AI all the time." And I was like, "I am." So I told them about Story Spinner,
Hmm.
and they were absolutely floored. They were like,
Hmm.
"There's a shocked face emoji." And when you see shocked face emoji, you
Uh-huh.
know you just dropped a bomb on
Uh,
them that
yeah. Yeah.
they didn't know about before.
Yeah.
This is some new shit. And I was like, "Yeah." So I'm experimenting, and I've been talking around it, I guess, for the audience to say, you know about it, of course, but for them,
Hmm.
I'll tell them. So Ajani came to visit about 2 weeks ago now. And before that visit, I had been basically trying to refine my storytelling process. So we all know you could go in and say to ChatGPT or any AI system, say, write me a book. And it will write you a book. It will attempt to write you a book. And that book will probably not be very good. It probably will lack direction. It won't be very coherent because the way the AI thinks.
Unless you're a prompt master.
Unless you're a prompt master, unless you gave it, but I'm saying if you just gave it the write me a book,
Hmm.
which is where a lot of people start. I don't know where to
Yep.
start. I just want to write something. It's not going to give you much. So what I was interested in is seeing how I could not only have it write me a book, but have it write me a book that's so specific that there's no other way that anybody else could get that same output. As if I wrote the book, even if Ajani and I wrote a book on the same project, they would be completely different books just because we'd approach it in different ways. We'd write it differently. We present the information differently. It doesn't matter if it's fiction or nonfiction. I'm focusing on fiction. So that's what I was. Can I get the AI to do this? Can I get ChatGPT to do this? So I had a series of text documents with different story parameters because in order to do this, you need to break down the information in a way that the AI understands. So I said, okay, here's my character creator. And in the character creator, I had age, sex, relationship with other characters, what's their physical appearance, how do they feel about their life, how's their financial standing, what's their mental health like, that type of stuff, like really detailed, granular stuff to where if you just read this, you already get a picture of your mind about what this person looks like. Then I went a step further, and of course, all the parameters that go into a good book, a good fiction book. What's the genre? What's the point of view? Is it first person, third person? Um, what is the way that the story is written? Is there a lot of dialogue? Is there a lot of description? These are the things that differentiate something like, I don't know, uh, Atlas Shrugged from Harry Potter. I'm not saying they're related in any way, but I'm saying these two books have completely different writing styles and different objectives. And I put that in there as well. What's the objective? What is the reader supposed to get out of this book? So I had a bunch of parameters of this. And anytime I would sit down to write a story, I would randomly select one by one of these parameters. So I'd be like, okay, what's the person? Is it male or female? Random. Is it Are they fat, skinny, whatever, random. And I would do this. And by the way, this is the same process that I used to write my current project, Maldives Madness, which I ended up writing that book. I finished the book the day after I got back from the Maldives. So let that sink in. I had the idea for the book while I was there. I started writing it while I was there. I finished right after, and I because I used this process, right? So that's another thing we can get into. Point is this is some powerful shit. So Ajani comes in and he says, and I show him this. I'm like, look at all these text documents. Isn't this cool? Whatever. I call it Story Spinner because you could literally get any type of story you want. And he was like, you can automate all this. And the way I described you, man, in the space this morning, I was like, this man just swooped down. I said, he's a data god. This guy is, I said, it was like watching an anime character work. Just the lines came up, the lights dimmed, the glasses went white, and he was just like he was static, but he was moving so fast. It looked like it was that type of. I looked at it was under an hour. You had it done, and he was like, yeah. All you gotta do is this, that, and I was like, and it worked. So basically, he made a document, and it pulls from. I'm not gonna explain how he did the workflow because I don't understand it at myself, but bottom line is he took all these parameters I had, took all these documents, and he made a workflow, and Story Spinner was born to where you could, in one click, have a complete skeleton for a story that you could feed to ChatGPT or Claude or whatever AI you use. And from there, you could easily generate or write, I should say, an entire book in a day easily. And I tested, but after you left, I tested it several times.
Hmm.
I added more parameters to it. I added now with the release of Dolly 3, and it actually
Hmm.
came out like right after you left, you can now generate images with
Oh,
the
very cool.
story within ChatGPT, which is really
Okay.
cool. Um, and I've tried it. So just a few days ago, I actually turned this into a product, and it's super cheap at this point. If you're listening to this and you're interested in getting a customized novel, hey, get in line. Get in line, go and hit the link. I'll put the link in the show notes. And I could definitely put you in a story of another you, basically. That's what I call it. Story spinner, another you. Because this is, and it could be anything. Could be fantasy, could be a path that you wish you took, but you didn't take. What would that look like? What are the parameters of it? We could spin up a story really fast. And I told him, I said, next month is actually November. So it's National Novel Writing Month. Are you
Hmm.
familiar with
I
this?
did not know this.
Oh, okay. So every year they call it NaNoWriMo,
Huh. Huh.
National Novel Writing Month. It's
Oh, very
short for
cool.
this. And it's a
Uh-huh.
thing. It's been a thing for many years. There's whole communities. And the whole point of the month is, and previously, it's for writers to spend the entire, you're supposed to write every day
Hmm.
and get X thousand words toward your novel.
Ah.
And that's what it's for. And I was like, cats be trying to write a single novel in 1 month. I'm gonna write three. Shit, I thought about doing one a day. I bet I could do one a day. And that's the thing. And that's the thing.
Uh,
We're not talking about rags that are just so generic and so bland. I don't know what a straight up chat GPT produced novel would look like. I'm sure there are some out there, and I'm sure they're pretty bad. Like, I'm sure they're pretty, I mean, they're readable, but it's not anything you would want to read. To get to this does require, and I'm not going to make this sound like it's easy, and that's what I told him in the space this morning. It's not easy. I mean, I'm bringing my experience as a writer, having written Serious and Limnic the old fashioned way, having written my other books, having written across the board, blog posts, social media. I've written a lot. So let's make this clear. This is not an easy thing to do. It's not just the technology, it still requires a level of taste, a level of awareness of the capabilities of the AI, what my capabilities are, what I want to see the AI do. But at the same time, it's a huge accelerator because I have that background, because the AI just enhances it. It is possible to write customized, unique stories for for anybody, and
yeah,
not
you
just
know,
in fiction.
and
Yeah,
speaking of that, we often talk about people being afraid of AI.
Mm-hmm.
And you're more into AI than I am.
Yeah.
And I've got
Rub
the
that
I've
in.
got the back end skeptical the skepticism regarding,
Yeah. No.
okay, where
Hey.
does the model come from and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
But but I saw while we were working on Story Spinner how there really are going to be new opportunities. I mean, truly, we
Yep.
essentially took one writer's job, and I think we created two jobs, two new
Right.
ones. If a creator is afraid, oh, AI is going to replace me as a writer or whatever, no, because on the one hand, you, I, I was happy to see that we still need more of the liberal arts knowledge. And
Yeah.
Keith, what you were just describing right now,
Mm.
you, it, I think when people were trying to, not were because we still are, but as we try to write normal in the normal way, no AI, you just
Yeah.
a pen to paper.
Hmm.
Um, we don't have that knowledge of the metadata and the mechanics and the
Right.
structure and
You
all of
don't.
that stuff. And it was interesting producing this stuff from Story Spinner because you not only have all these parameters, but embedded in those parameters is a knowledge of English, like
Exactly.
the English like
Yes.
language,
English language.
grammar, and all that stuff they were
All
trying
the
to make you
above.
study in seventh grade. Now instead of writing your story that way,
Mm.
you're actually writing the grammar and the mood and the tone and the
Mm.
genre
Mm.
rules. And I'm not saying it's just as hard. Obviously, it's quicker, but it definitely requires this kind of
Exactly.
new job set. So if the writer feels like he's going away, then the meta writer is gonna become a thing.
Right.
Especially as I told you about the whole self-tape stuff.
Hmm.
They pointed out something which really got me. Again, I'm always impressed with what actors actually have to do.
Mm.
Um,
Yeah.
the lady who was on the video, she was like, "Yeah, while I'm recording, I have to ask my reader, uh, does it look like I'm looking at an object right there, or does it look like I'm looking a million miles away?" And I'm like, man,
Mm.
because you could totally pick that up on a tape. And I never thought of that. That's a
Yeah.
nuance. It's a structure thing. We're so busy trying to memorize lines that
Mm.
you're not
Yeah.
even thinking about how you look to the person viewing you through the lens. And that's a level of knowledge,
Mm.
excuse
Mm.
me, about the craft
Yes.
that
Yes.
that's going to be more and more important as we feed this into the AI. So no, and I told you it created two
Hmm.
jobs because maybe the writer is gonna maybe there'll be fewer of those who
Mm.
actually do pen to paper,
Right.
but there's going to be more meta writers and there's going to be more of the like the data generation workflow process based, story to publishing to what clients
Absolutely.
want and all that. And it's struggling artists, right? We're up here trying to make our art. We're
Yeah.
not thinking about the
No.
flow of our product from here
No.
to there, from
No.
into
Few
these
are.
eyes. But now, I'm not saying you're going to have to. It's that you get to see the results of your skeleton concept.
Right.
And when
Exactly.
you
I love
see what
that.
Chat GPT or something like that has done, you become more of the consumer of your own product instead of the person who
Boom.
struggled for 15 years to come up with that product. That's
Exactly.
two jobs, and you actually get more training in the shoes of your editor,
Way more.
you know.
Way more training.
So
And
it's
somebody,
not a loss. It
no,
makes
no, it's not, man. And somebody asked me about, we got kind of in the weeds this morning in this discussion, and somebody asked me about, how do you do your inputs? Like how do you not, and he wasn't asking about specific prompts.
I'm remembering your prompts
Oh
when
yeah, yeah.
ChatGPT would go
I
astray.
I be right. Okay, so let the record reflect that my prompts, I be writing books. I told him I literally
Yeah.
spent an hour writing the first prompt
Mm.
for a project that I'm working on right now, just yesterday. And the reason why is that the more accurate that first prompt is, the less work I'm going to have to do on the back end to refine the output from the AI.
Yeah.
Because if you be giving it a shoestring, it's just like anything, garbage in,
Yeah.
garbage out.
Yeah.
You eat McDonald's every day, you're gonna be shitting bricks or whatever. I
Yeah,
mean,
we saw
it's
that
the
we
same.
we saw that first kind of not it wasn't a bad novel from Story Spinner. We finished
Oh,
Story
right,
Spinner
yeah, yeah.
and
We
we had
wrote
that
that
one.
one.
It wasn't
It
bad. It
wasn't
was it
terrible.
was it was okay, and
It was
in fact, it
okay.
was probably better than a lot of people would have done. But
Exactly.
towards the end of it, I was just like, man, Keith, you're right. It really is not following the
No,
rule, like the
it
instructions.
totally
It
just
wrote a nice sounding novel, but it wanted to
right.
really write something else. And I'm noticing this as I write Laurentia too,
Mm,
that it, and I'm using ChatGPT 3. And maybe
mm,
if I cared more,
yeah,
I
I
was just
know.
experimenting with it. But you can
Yeah,
always tell a ChatGPT interpretation. About 1% of them,
yeah.
I tried it out on there, and it's always
Hmm.
like it's got this positive voice,
Right.
and it
There's
and it and
definitely a
it
voice.
does compound sentences and stuff like that, and it does
Mm,
have its own personality, which is not you.
it
And when I
does.
when I get to those, and even for GPT-4, I mean, I
Mm,
saw how it was writing
same,
those. It
same.
has a voice. It has a very, it'll be okay.
Mm,
This was my story, and it's a good thing that
right.
this happened. And I
Yeah,
mean,
you're absolutely
that's
right.
not that's not going to be able to replace everybody, because to be honest,
No, some
it's
people don't
it's a
like
little
that.
it's a little
It's
sing-songy for my
it's a
book,
little bland, and
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 it's
yeah,
a
that's where
little
I go
kumbaya, you know.
back to taste. Like for some people, it's not going to work, and to get to even the level that you saw when we were generating Story Spinner, I have custom prompts enabled. You've seen my prompts. They're super directed, very specific about what I want. And yeah, that's where I go back to. Honestly, I don't be using ChatGPT to do the bulk of my AI,
No,
right?
man.
Because it's just
No.
too hard to, it goes off the fucking rails. It just starts
Yeah,
doing what it
yeah.
do. And I'm like,
Yeah.
do you hear me?
Yeah.
Remember what I told it?
Yeah.
What did I
That was
tell
what was
you?
so funny. What I tell you?
What did I say?
What I tell you, GPT? Come
What
on
I
now.
say?
I said don't do that, and you did it.
I told you not to use that fucking word, and you used it.
Yeah.
You disobeyed me, man. You're not listening.
I
Let me
know.
tell you again. It's gonna be
It
the
ru-
last time. And I'm going over to the homie Claude. And guess what I did? I went to Claude because I was like, okay, GPT, you in a fucking timeout because I
you
can't deal
you in
with
the
you right
corner,
now.
bro.
You in the corner. Get over there. Because it just doesn't listen. Claude,
Yeah.
if you're listening to this, and seriously, if you're interested in doing what we're talking about with something like Story Spinner, because somebody was like, there was a guy this
Uh,
morning for the first time, he was legit interested. He was like,
mhm.
"What was your workflow? Like, how did you do this?" Like the he wanted to like get into like the data stuff, and I was like, first of all, I don't even understand that part because I told you my brother did that part. But I was like, second of all, even if I gave you my exact workflow, you're not going to get the exact same results. It's going to be different because the way you prompt is different. The way you think about the story is different. Even if I gave you the exact story spinner stuff that I have, my documents, you would get different stuff
Mhm.
because you haven't written fiction. This guy
Yeah.
had not is not written fiction.
Mm. Interesting.
And well, he hasn't written a whole book, I should say. I don't know if he's written fiction. Maybe he's written small form.
Yeah.
But the point is, he hasn't written long to where it would
Mm.
be easy for him to look at a set of parameters and be like, I see the story there. I can do that. A
Yeah.
lot of people can't do that. That's not something that everybody has. So that's again, I go back to if you're listening to this and you're like, man, that would be so cool to do this or whatever. Hey, I'm available for consulting. And that's what I told that guy this morning. I'd
Uh-huh.
be happy. So I said, send me a DM and I'd be happy to
Yeah.
sit
Yeah.
down and walk you through how I did it and how you could do it too, how you can set up something similar. Because you're right. And I love what you said. You you did it, man. Because all this time I've been thinking, like, what is this called? I just called myself an AI writer.
Mm.
Meta writer is so good. And I have not heard that yet. I have never heard that. I haven't seen
Mm.
it on X. I haven't seen it anywhere. Meta writing. And I thought of it this way, and this is the way I told those guys this morning. I said, it's like coding, and you'll understand this because you know code. We're at a level of abstraction up now. We're
Mhm.
not C++ anymore. We're not Java, those hard, we're JavaScript. We're a framework now. We're
Mm.
just plugging stuff in and the computer's doing stuff because it's that high level of an abstraction. And now it's the same with writing.
Hmm.
We don't have to deal with the individual words. And I actually, you mentioned that, in that embedded in there, you need to understand the English language very well, or it's helpful if you do to get better outputs. And I said, hey, I totally appreciate this. I'm over here writing in Japanese. I wrote my first, using this method, I wrote my first complete Japanese story, and I'm releasing it. It's a Halloween story because it's Halloween time. We're recording this, and I'm releasing it in serial fashion on a Japanese
Hmm.
blogging site. But the writing is decent, but I can't tell you if it's strong or not because I don't know the rules of the Japanese language as intimately as I know the rules of the English language. So I see, if I put it in a translator and have it translate the chapter, I'm like, it sounds good in English. It sounds somewhat interesting. There's a story there, but I don't know if the writing is compelling. I can't say that like I can with
Hmm.
English writing. And so that goes back to, I use that as kind of an example. Don't think you're going to come in here and be like, time to make millions, time to just pump out these books. Like,
Hmm.
it ain't going to happen, bro.
Yep.
It ain't going to happen, sister. It probably won't if you don't understand the fundamentals. And that's the way it is with everything. You got all these people making apps now with AI. There's having the AI generate game stuff, which is fine, which is totally great. I feel like it's a great learning tool, especially if you're doing that. And this is awesome for learning. But if you're trying to like produce a hit, produce
Hmm.
like $1 million seller, or think this is your ticket to early retirement or whatever, it won't work for you that way. It just
Yeah.
won't, unless it's already your area of
And of
expertise that
course,
it's augmenting.
of
Yeah,
course, that market gets saturated pretty quickly,
it
and
does. It does.
just the audiences. Even if people jump on the AI bandwagon, the number of people who are going to care about your specific thing is still going to be small. So
Absolutely.
you need something that tunes it to a particular market, and you stay there,
Yeah,
right?
you do. And I think all of the other skills that you were talking about, like the adjacent skills that you need, like marketing, copywriting, hell, going into branching out into other mediums like I've been doing,
Hmm.
making videos, podcasts, presenting your stuff in different forms. This is something that a lot of people I don't see a lot. I see a
Hmm.
lot of people producing like fly by night courses,
Yeah.
books, whatever, but there's no staying power. Like they
You
have
know what
nothing else behind it.
I'm thinking about the games on the Nintendo eShop because it was one of the many, many things that we talked about. And this idea that, so much of the eShop stuff it's ported over from mobile
It
and
is,
Steam
yeah.
and whatnot. And I find myself going through just trying to buy the usual $4, $6 game. And because there are some good ones, like there's some really, really good ones.
Yeah, I
And
bet. Yeah, there's some indie hit
like,
gems in there.
well, one of the games that stands out to me is Evil Tonight, which I probably have mentioned
You
before.
did mention, yeah.
And it's a 2D pixel horror. And in the wide space of stuff that could have sucked, that one did not. In the last 3 years, 4 years with my Nintendo Switch,
Right.
Evil Tonight stands out as something that is really, really, really good. And you think about all of these shops all over the world can publish through some publisher and land in the
Mm-hmm.
Nintendo eShop, and it really is kind of a similar situation to what we can now do with AI. Not
Mm.
everybody had the deviant art level or the Behance level skills to
Mm-hmm.
make whatever that really really good stuff. But we used an ocean of that good stuff to train these models who can now
Exactly.
just kick it out for you.
Mm-hmm.
However, much like the eShop, now you use the word, it's compelling. It's
Mm.
it's hard to find something that is compelling.
Very hard.
And I'm
Yeah.
trying to judge a book by its cover, and I'm trying
Yeah.
to
Yeah, man.
some of them have demos, some of them don't, and most of them
Yeah.
don't. And it's like the search for quality, the search for something
Mm.
that, well, two things. It a lot of it is quality,
Mm.
but even for poor quality things, as long as it resonates with you,
There it
the
is.
consumer,
There it is.
then you have it. And I'm looking for something that, has a 90% chance of quality or
Mm.
a 90% chance of Ajani liking it.
Yes.
And
That's all that matters.
this is kind of the newer way of looking at it
Yeah.
instead of just focusing on, oh, look at all this stuff that's out there, or look at
Right, right.
how easy it is to replace somebody. I'm like, well, you know,
No.
yeah.
No, I feel that, man. And that's why I think like the creators that do they build an ecosystem around what they're making. And it's usually not just through one thing. It's usually not just through one thing. It's not just through the most successful creators that I've seen in this new online digital business space. They're the ones that they diversify pretty quick.
Mm-hmm.
They're so at social media, but then they have a badass course or something,
Mm-hmm.
or they have a
Yep.
really strong book, or they have a really strong email newsletter or something. The
Yeah.
ideal is to have all of those components in place. And I was talking about that this morning too. Like it takes so long to get all of these things set up. And I know because I've done it.
Mm-hmm.
I've been doing that over the past year and a half, getting all of these parts of the pathway. I call it. A lot of people call it a funnel. I
Mm.
I don't really like the funnel.
Yeah.
I just don't like it as a visual. It's like sucking
Yeah.
people
It
in and
narrows.
like this, like it just
Ghostbusters. Yeah.
it's just
Now, and
something
also
about it.
you end up in several different media anyway, so the funnel's not
You
quite
do.
a good. Yeah.
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 And I
Uh-huh.
get the analogy. I get it. But
Yeah.
I prefer the pathway analogy
Yeah.
to where, you're giving this walkway of you introduce yourself through your social media stuff, and then
Mm-hmm.
people find you, and then you have offerings of maybe you have a newsletter, maybe you have a book, maybe you have a course, whatever. And then that leads to, if you want consulting or bigger solo projects or collaborations,
Mm-hmm.
I think that's where it's at. But it's going to be a requirement, man. And it's just
Yeah.
because you're right. When we were sitting here looking at the eShop, I was like, and I was super overwhelmed. I don't go on there that much. So
Uh-huh.
I'm like, shit, I have no
I'm
idea.
I'm
And I
not saying
still
there's a
didn't
bunch
buy
of junk on
nothing.
there, but there's a bunch of stuff that I mean,
There's
you got to be in the mood for whatever is on
there's
there.
some, yeah, there's some
Yeah.
I'm like,
They threw that stuff together, some of it.
yeah, some of them
Yeah.
definitely are of questionable quality,
Uh-huh.
and that's fine. I just you're right. It's becoming harder and harder to curate, to choose. Like, what do I do? And you've got to be, if you're creating stuff and you want people to find your stuff, you are
Mm-hmm.
not entitled to spins. You are not entitled to eyes or ears or reads or anything like that just because you slaved away for X amount of time.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody said it, but it was Dickie Bush this morning. I was listening to his space. Nobody really cares about that, unfortunately. You
Mm-hmm.
know, and we
Yeah.
talked about this. I did an AI music space earlier this week, and we were kind of talking about AI and music, but we were talking about some music in general. And there was another guy that I met, Jared. He's over in the UK, and he was like, "Yeah, I wish more people would ask me about like what I put into my music and how I made it."
Mm-hmm.
And he's been making music for a long time. And it sucks because I've seen that as a musician too. Like people just don't care like what went into it. It doesn't
Mm-hmm.
matter if you composed it or if you struggled to play shaky piano or shaky
Yeah.
guitar
Uh-huh.
or if you sang for the first time. I've done all of the above, and
Yeah.
there's a lukewarm reaction at best. Even if the
Mm-hmm.
song turns out good, which most of them are at least decent, people just don't care in general.
Yeah.
They more care what you've got does for them. And that's a harsh reality that is just true in our days, in our times. There's just too much shit out there.
Yeah.
There's
And I
too
think
much.
once you become a creator yourself, then you have a greater appreciation for what
You do. I definitely
goes
do
into
now.
it.
I look at stuff now, and even the stuff that I say that is of lower quality, a lot of times I just say it's just not for me.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
For
Exactly.
somebody, this is their jam, even if it's low
Yep.
quality. Some people like that minimalist stick figure kind of, questionable audio quality. They just don't care. As long as,
Mm-hmm.
like you said, as long the test is, do I like it?
Mm-hmm.
If they like it, it doesn't matter. It really doesn't matter. And that's what got me with Sirius and Limnick. That for the longest time, as you know, I stopped the podcast for almost a year because I wasn't happy with the sound design. I wasn't happy with the way it was going. But when I picked it back up, I was just like, some people are listening to this.
Mm-hmm.
Some people do like it for what it is, even if the quality wasn't great at the time, the music, the levels were off, all these little nitnoid artist things. They don't see that. They don't hear that. All
Mm-hmm.
they hear is they don't even hear the same version of the show that I hear
Mm-hmm.
because they can't. I wrote the story. I made the story. I know the story intimately well. Most people that listen don't. Well, actually, nobody knows it as well as I do.
Yeah.
So they're they're listening for the story. Some people, they just want to know what happens. They're not really concerned with the quality as much. And I have to remind myself of that whenever I'm like, I don't know if I should put this out. I've been doing a lot of videos lately. If you find me on X, you'll see a lot
Mm.
of shorter videos and animations. And I've been trying to combine a lot of stuff. I'm
Mm.
combining some animation stuff with
Yeah, yeah,
generated images, with generated music. And I let you hear that one song, the
yeah,
Walking down there,
yeah.
that song
No.
goes hard. I called it Dance of Madness. And oh my God,
Yeah.
yesterday, witness, man, witness to the power of this AI, man,
Yeah,
to
yeah, yeah.
make shit like that. Okay,
Screamer voice.
the
Yeah.
sound quality
Oh,
is not tip top,
yeah.
but it's a bop.
It was all right. Yeah,
It's all
yeah,
right, and it
yeah,
fits
yeah.
the story.
That
It
is
fits
funny
what I'm
because
trying to
the guy,
do. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, the vocalists sometimes just wander off
the
into
the
another
vocalists
corner of the
be just
bar.
like, hey,
He was
they
like,
just
I'm just here to
look,
rap." It took a swing. It
hey,
was like, ah,
it's time for me to
you know,
rap. Get
just
ready
start.
for me. And
he,
so I'm,
he started off singing and he ended up yodeling.
oh
But
my God,
yeah,
man. I mean, but it's funny because it's so easy now to combine
still
all of
catchy
these.
though.
Yeah, it's still catchy. And I thought about
Yeah.
that. I was like, and I'm not, and in the podcast, if you're hearing this now and you're listening to this podcast, not a lot of people do, but I'm gonna tell you, if you buy Maldives Madness or if you listen to it, the audio version, the music and the Japanese voices that you hear at the end during the language bridge sections, not all of them, because some of it's my voice, it's me reading the Japanese, but the ones that sound like native speakers, all that's AI generated. Maybe you
Mm.
care today. Maybe you do. Maybe you're like, well, fuck him. Like he's putting these AI shit in here. I don't want to listen to him anymore.
Oh,
Okay,
you did
fine.
get that. You got that reaction.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I've gotten that reaction.
Yeah.
But
Weird.
I would bet if I didn't tell you, you wouldn't know
Uh-huh.
and you wouldn't care. Case in point, I just finished level 4 of Pimsleur. The Pimsleur, if you don't know the Pimsleur audio series, it's a language learning
Mm.
series. I've been doing Pimsleur Japanese since last year, and I've gone through all the levels. Now there's the 5th level, and that's the last level.
Mm.
Man, it sounds like these voices are AI generated.
Mm. Mm.
I don't think they are because it was
There's
pre-AI. They
very, very
recorded it,
proper.
but it's very proper.
Yeah.
It's the same. They cycle through the same. I think there's only 4 voices on there.
Mm.
There's the English narrator, and then there's one female
Mm-hmm.
Japanese reader, and maybe there's 2 or 3. I wouldn't even get 2. Maybe there's 2 male Japanese readers. That's
Mm.
it. And I've done 30 times 4, 120 lessons of
Mm.
the same shit,
Mm.
and it's super effective.
Yeah.
Even if the shit was AI generated, I don't care. I'm still getting. My Japanese is leveled up so much just by doing
Mm.
Pimsleur, and I think that's where we're headed. I mean, especially now, there's already 11 labs. There's already so many AI voice cloning. You cannot tell. Like if you're not paying attention, you just cannot tell that it's AI generated. I don't
Mm.
care who you are, especially the more formal it is. If it's an audiobook, if it's something, a formal podcast or something. Now more AI is still pretty shit at informal stuff. Like
Mm.
it just kind of falls apart. It doesn't
Mm.
work as well. Like I've seen a couple of AI comedy things
Oh no.
and they're
Oh
funny
no.
because they're so bad. They're
Oh
just
yeah.
I feel like
Dubbed
it one day
movies.
will be a thing. But I watched it and I
Yeah.
was like,
Oh no.
it was like it was funny because the article was on. I think maybe we talked about this when you were here about the development in the Tupac case,
Uh-huh.
to where they had found new evidence after 20
Uh-huh.
plus
Yeah.
years. But yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that was what the comedy routine was on.
Oh no, that's already awkward. But okay.
And it
I
was the
mean,
AI talking about like who's still thinking about Tupac and all that stuff. It was just kind of dumb.
oh no.
And the
No.
execution was just very stiff. and it wasn't funny. And they had
No,
like a 3D.
it's a touchy subject
It's a touchy
anyway. So
subject as well. So it was just
yeah.
done in poor taste and it was poor quality as
Oh
well.
God.
So
Oh,
it's things like that.
there's a future job waiting for somebody to curate stuff like
AI
that.
is not ready
And
for prime time when it comes to, I'd say,
no.
informal stuff. Not even
Or
today.
the prompt makers needed to again, that's the career, that's the new career. Needed to tighten that up.
Yeah,
So that was funny.
exactly. They didn't, yeah,
Yeah.
they didn't think too hard about that one. But
So shifting gears slightly because we
yeah,
have talked a little bit about Japan and stuff, and you know I
yeah,
just
yeah,
visited, and
for sure,
you
for
you
sure.
mentioned there's a lot of stuff I learned while I was there.
Yeah,
Just you know Japanese man did tons of things, right?
yeah, it was a
We
packed schedule.
oh my God, yeah, Joanna kept us busy, and you know
My wife, the planning,
karaoke, uh,
karaoke.
scootered around an island, little biker gang,
Yep.
snorkeling.
Damn.
Ate goat bones, like the bones of,
Oh,
and a fisheye, and a
I
crunchy
applaud you
Lamb's
for
fisheye.
that. I applaud
Yo,
you.
in that bar, it was the izakaya style of you know, and they were
Yeah.
playing dubbed movies. I was like, okay, I don't know if this is considered awkward or just nostalgic. And then we went to another one where all they played was like Motown soul music. You
Yep.
know, that was cool.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
I got to lay on a hammock and look at the sea. That was neat. I'd never done that. And yeah, lots of stuff. Went to Hard Off is your dream
Hard
place.
off is your dream place. I find
Hard
myself
Off.
saying that.
I know, and
Oh,
I told Santa about that. Okay, so for people listening, all Hard Off is a it's like a used goods
it's
mega
a
store.
used
That's all it is.
electronics. Used electronics
Why
mainly.
it's called Hard Off, I mean, I don't know.
There's a whole off-brand series over here in Japan. Japan they have an interesting sense of humor sometimes. And sometimes they're
Uh,
not trying to be funny. Like I'm sure somebody was super serious when they said off this. この会社の名前というは off this. The name of my company is off. And we're just gonna have these spinoffs. So there's Hard Off, that's the hardware store or
uh,
electronics. There's
uh,
Book Off,
uh.
you get discount books. There's Off House, and that's for home. I'm serious. Look it up. If you think I'm bullshitting you, just look it up. It's
Yo,
real.
but Hard Off was serious though when we went in.
Hard Off is
They had that gold amplifier system that was like
you can find some
surely
gems if
I mean
you're a scavenger. There's a
it
lot of
was a
people
lot of
who
money. It was and it was but no but I mean that particular brand but they went
yeah, they have everything from
the
like
whole
higher
range.
end stuff to like
Oh
complete just like old computer
yeah
towers from the 1990s. Like who would
yeah
buy this? And they sell them for like $5
yeah
equivalent. It's like
yeah
500 yen or
a
something or
bunch of laptops just
600
laying
yen.
there
Bunch
just
of
sitting there.
dead laptops. And some of it they say they just have it labeled as junk.
Uh-huh.
They're like, this is
Junk.
junk. So, but people buy it for parts. People buy it for
Yeah.
nostalgia or do other things with it. There's a ton of stuff you can
Yeah,
do with
and
that
we went
old stuff.
to,
But
and then we went to a kind of competitor, Mangasuko, where I got a
mm.
Donald Byrd CD, which was awesome. I listened to it.
Oh,
It was
nice.
nice. Yeah, yeah, it's very good. The transition sessions with some other dude. But
Isn't
yeah,
that
that
place
was
crazy? Like that's the
yeah,
most anywhere I've seen in the world. That's the most wall-to-wall
yeah.
games I've ever seen, like in a
Hmm.
store, from like the oldest games to the brand new games.
Yes, yeah,
PS5,
yeah. Mangasuko
Xbox.
was
Yeah,
they were on it.
it takes the title.
So
It's the champ.
yeah, they were, but there was a lot of cool stuff that we did, and I'm not a really big swimmer. I'm not a beach person. I'm not an ocean person. And I told Keith and Joanne, I was like, look, I got all this. I got all this. I look like Ultraman in the gear, maybe even
The
worse.
Black Knight.
I was dressed up in not going to drown in this water
Right.
gear,
This ain't gonna be the enemy.
you
I
know.
mean, and where you got in, I don't think you realize it. Like, not a lot of people go in over there because it's a
Uh,
small island.
uh,
Not a lot of people are going in. So that's one of my tests. I'm looking
uh,
around to see who's in
yeah,
because
yeah.
I'm like, if there ain't no locals in this, I'm not getting in this piece. That's what I'll be. because they live here. They know,
Yeah.
like,
Oh.
and so when there's nothing there, and Joanna be doing this, she be just be jumping in anywhere, and I'm like, oh. It's like, Lord help you, because nobody goes there. The
Yeah,
locals don't
yeah,
go there, or they're not
yeah.
there. So what
Why not? What's
what do
wrong with
you
this
think?
place?
And so she thinks the
Yeah.
opposite. She's like, well, then that means it's unspoiled. That means there's more stuff to see, which is true. But I'm
Mhm.
like, that means ain't nobody there to save your ass. That means I'm
Yeah,
gonna have
yeah,
to
yeah,
go in
exactly.
and save you.
Exactly. So yeah, but I saw the brilliant blue fish, man, and I told him I was like, look, I may take my toe right out of this water if it's too cold. But unfortunately, or
Yeah,
fortunately, it was perfect.
it
And
was perfect that day. It
it
was
was a
great.
really cool trip. And I of course saved the best for last, the tug
Yeah,
of war.
the tug of war, man.
Okay, yo, the tug
Oh
of
my
war
God,
was
this
that
thing.
was I mean, so Keith, you be living a high life over there just in general, but sometimes things like the tug of war are like a that's you don't that's
It's a
sponsored by it.
super rare event too.
Yeah,
You were
yeah.
so lucky that you were here
I
during
was
that
there
weekend.
for that day. So we
Yeah,
were in the Great Tug of War. Look it up in
you
the Book of World Records. It is the largest tug of war in the world. And
confirmed.
actually, they hadn't had it. Maybe not this year, as far as largest, but
Mm-hmm.
the event itself in Naha, is, the capital there of Okinawa.
Mm-hmm.
And yo, we were going there, and Keith, you were just like, well, yeah, last time I was here, I took maybe like three tugs on it and then it
Yeah,
left
I
because
didn't
it seemed
stay.
like it was an all-day thing and they weren't really pulling this rope, this
Right.
40-ton rope, bro, with a bunch of
40
mini ropes
tons.
on it. And we went there thinking it was kind of ceremonial, but we
Mm-hmm.
went there near the end of the day, and that ceremonial stuff had the nerve to become a real tug of war.
It was a real tug
And
of
how
war,
long were
real
we pulling that
muscle.
rope? Yo,
45 minutes.
45 minutes.
Real
45 minutes.
muscle, real
Thousands
blisters,
of people. My
thousands.
hands, I still have, I
You
don't know
still
if
have
you
the
can see.
blister?
Oh, bro, I still have the blisters. I cut my
No.
hand. I cut my hand while I was doing it, blister on my thumb,
Oh,
blister on my palm. And I just looked at it like, yeah, but if I stop pulling, we'll lose.
right.
In terms of team effort, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not normally into that stuff. I'm real introverted and things, but
Right.
but our side, bro, that
We
last
that last
he
pull.
said with like 5 minutes, he was like, it's only 5 minutes left, 5 meters. Bro, we couldn't get the thing to move.
It
Honestly,
wasn't
five
moving.
inches in 20 minutes. We really
No,
couldn't. It was
no.
just. And so he's like 5 meters. They're like, okay, we could do it. No, we can't. And because it was, but then he was like, 2 minutes. And we said, we're going in.
Okay, we're
And
going in. Yeah.
our whole side started pulling. And that last
It was
piece,
so
it
satisfying
it
when it
was,
moved so
bro.
much. They were I
After,
just imagine them on the other side, blocks down, just
oh,
getting dragged. Just like
I
I was like,
know.
yes, good, get dragged.
Yeah.
Get
The
dragged.
last, and once he said 2 minutes, it must have been like 20 or 30 seconds later when we got the momentum because we
It
didn't take
was.
that whole last 2 minutes. And then we just pulled,
No.
and then the whole thing
And
started
then the
slipping.
whole thing,
Oh, man, it was nice.
it was a satisfying feeling, man.
It
It
was, and
was so
we got
satisfying.
the rope. We each got pieces of the rope as a customary kind of souvenir stuff.
Yep,
And
I got
you
mine.
won't normally catch me doing this anywhere, but I was like, whoa, yeah! I was up there cheering. We grab a
Yeah.
random Japanese dude, be like, hey, take a selfie with us, bro.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was some dope stuff. But yeah, we won the Great Tug of War.
We won the
We were
Great Tug
there.
of War. We
We were
did.
there.
We were
The
there.
first one in 5 years since COVID.
Yeah, the first one since COVID. It's a super rare event. I'm so happy that you were there to experience that. And I
Yeah.
had, of all the stuff that we did, I was just like, man, I don't know if he's gonna like this because shit, it was hot as hell. Do you remember how
It
hot it was?
was
It
bodies all
was,
squeezed together and
God
stuff.
damn, it was hot.
I describe those seven people around me as my unit to the people that I've been talking to. I'd be
You were
like, yeah,
just,
that
I'm
was a little
talking,
unit.
this is some pre-COVID body
Yeah,
to body,
yeah,
sweating on people, people sweating
yeah,
on you, people breathing on you. It was
yeah,
just that type of an event.
yeah.
And even me, I'm not used to like going up and like being all
And and there
like
was a
that.
little, and Keith, as I told you, there was a little bit of strategy in there because I was
Yeah.
towards the end, I was just too weak to make any movement, and we all were because
Yeah,
we
everybody
kept
was tired
stopping, and
for
like
sure.
the guy blowing the whistle was like, hold on, y'all are getting
Yeah,
tired,
yeah.
they're
This
getting
guy
tired.
falling off. And
He fell off the
so they had to give
in the
everybody
time.
context. They had spotters basically. So during this thing, on the main rope, they have Japanese Okinawans that are up there, and they're kind of giving you kind of a cadence, and they have a whistle to be like, they're just giving you a cadence to where people know when to pull. The problem is it's so quick. Somebody was like, "What was that black guy behind us? You ain't got no rhythm. You ain't got no rhythm."
That main rope is like 3 feet in diameter, so they're standing up on it, yo. We
Yeah,
had our
yeah.
own, yeah. So
So
we
he's on the
developed
middle of the
our
rope,
own
and so people
cadence.
get off, and people are start pulling it out instead of back.
Uh,
And you see this guy like, oh, like
he's
falling off
wobbling.
like a cartoon. And so he'd stop people and okay, wait, reset, and then be like, "Asumete kudasai," like get better, get better, ushiro, and like go back, not to the side because you don't
Yeah,
do anything when you pull the side. You
yeah,
got to pull it back, and then it pulls the whole rope. So
yeah, yeah.
let me see. I got mine. Let me get mine right here.
Uh, there it
This is my
is.
piece of the rope right here.
Yep.
Proof.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So
Oof, we were there.
this piece was attached to a larger rope, and then yeah, you pull on this, and then that would be
Yeah.
your part. So yeah,
It was awesome. It was,
honestly,
yo.
I told mom about it, and mom was like, "Really? Ajani did that?"
Yeah, I did everything that was on the schedule. So
She
I'll be
was
trying.
so surprised. Like when
No,
I told her
I
you
try
went
everything.
snorkeling, I told her
Uh-huh.
you had done all this other stuff. She was like,
Yeah.
"Wow." I don't
Yeah.
think yeah, she was impressed.
I
She was
told you my
like,
rule is if you didn't die, I probably won't die. Just
"Hey
grin
man,
and bear it, you know?
no, that's
Yo,
yeah, man. I'm happy. We did a
it was cool.
it was cool, man.
It was really that was it was a
It
fun
was a
trip.
great visit. And we
And
did
man,
have
I
some
got back.
time.
Yeah, and we did. We had time to hang out and stuff. Got
Hmm.
to watch the Chinese drama and stuff. When You Be Me. Yeah, you know.
Bro, that okay. I real quick, I gotta tell you how that show ended. We just finished it 2 days ago.
Uh-huh.
It had an amazing twist ending that
Oh.
none of us saw coming. Because I have to admit, a lot of these Chinese dramas have terrible
Oh.
endings, and it really sucks when you watch a show for 60 plus episodes and
Yeah.
it has a shit ending. And that's happened, unfortunately, with several dramas we've watched. But this
Yeah.
one, so it gets to the last episode. The very end of the last episode, the main guy and the main girl, they both
Hmm.
they both get together. They get good with their families. The family
Okay.
drama
Okay.
ends, and they get into the same college, and they're like, "We're gonna go to the college together." And then, of
Yeah.
course,
Yeah.
they're like, "We're gonna get together. We're gonna be together." And so the screen goes white, and then all of a sudden, they show the girl in like this futuristic, like fucking capsule
Huh.
in a white room. So they raise her up and release her, and then this doctor comes in, and she's like, "Where am I?" He's like, "Well, you've just passed the game." And she's like, "Wait a minute. So I'm 28 years old, like 10 years plus older than she was in the whole show because she's supposed to be in high
Hmm.
school.
Yeah.
And I'm at this university, I think it's Beijing University,
Uh-huh.
and I'm a doctor or whatever." And he's like, "Yeah, you are. And you completed the game. Congratulations." And she was like, "So this was a, all of my subconscious." He was like, "Yeah, this was a
Hmm.
game,
Hmm.
basically like a holodeck game
Oh.
that was so real that was based off of her subconscious, based off of a classmate that she didn't even know
Oh.
very well in real life."
Oh.
And so he's like, "Yeah, yeah, we saw it, and it was great that you were able to make that make that detailed of a scenario and all this stuff."
Oh.
And then so the very last scene is she runs into him, the main
Huh.
guy, but they know each other, but only from high school. Like they were just kind of acquaintances. They were never together.
Yeah.
And so he's like, "You want to get something to eat? I haven't seen you in a long time." She's like, "How's everybody, the classmates doing?" He's like, "I don't
Mm.
really talk to him that much anymore. I'm not really cool with him.
Mm.
You want to go get something to eat? Are you married?" She's like, "No, I'm not married. Are you married?" "No, I'm not married." And then that's the end.
Oh. Okay. That's a little bit of a twist.
Twist,
That is a twist.
sci-fi
Okay.
twist. I was like,
Oh.
See,
Okay.
this is why I love Chinese dramas because you can get a lot just interesting story stuff with that. But go
Yeah.
ahead with what you were gonna say. Sorry about that.
No, no, no. I was just saying that was one of the things. It was noteworthy. I got a little teary, you know, I do.
Hmm.
I told you that, you know, the way me and Shannon watch TV is a little bit
Yeah,
different
that's
because
right. Y'all get into it.
we'd be judging the people on TV. And just like getting all mad at certain stuff.
No.
One last thing I wanted to tell you though is that when I got back from there, I felt like I've been telling people, I said, Joanna, man, she put stuff on. She's like, you don't have a bucket list? Here's one, and it's
Here's your
already
bucket
checked off.
list. You didn't know you had
You
one. Now
didn't
you
know you
do.
had one. I came back, I was like, well, shoot, man, I could I can just declare victory now, you
I
know,
know,
because
man.
all this stuff that we did. And I
Honestly, yeah.
told you, you know, in the text that
Mm-hmm.
you know, Shannon and I are we're more introverted in some ways,
Yeah.
but you know, our thing is political.
Mm,
So
that's
we
right.
have been talking about, I'll keep this very brief, but we have been talking about um uh like shopping options and stuff here in Glenville.
Mm.
And just, you know, not but it's mainly grocery. I'm sorry, one of the dogs coughed or sneezed and it sounded like a human.
Oh, wow.
Oh man. Anyway, it's yeah, a little startling. I'm the only one in this house with the kids, with the three
Oh,
dogs.
no.
Yeah, that was a little Twilight Zone. But anyway, but yeah, we have been talking about some things. And I'll just, we, it's a very well-run town where we're at,
Mm.
Glenville. And we went to this development authority meeting. It's an open meeting. They're like, hey, you know, come and the Industrial Development Authority is going to meet. And man, to make a long story short, we watched their proceedings, and the mayor, who's awesome,
Mm.
Bernie Weaver, whoop whoop, you know, our mayor Bernie Weaver, he kicks ass.
Mm.
Um, but we have an election coming up, and all the candidates are proper badasses. They're all
Mm.
good people. They're all, you know, forward thinking. It's nice. We don't have any bad candidates.
Nice.
Um, but he couldn't be there, but he left this letter. And in the letter was like a hardcore leader's letter, a call to answer something that had occurred in the planning meeting for shopping
Yeah.
options. And we were like, I was like, Shannon, we were planning to bring this up at the city council meeting because you could do that as a citizen. But
Mm-hmm.
he's already doing it, which means other minds are getting on it. So
Nice.
we got a chance to weigh in because in this particular forum,
Cool.
they let you have public comments.
Yeah.
And they say, okay, does anybody have public comments? I raised my hand. I stood up. I was like, yo, my name is Ajani Abdul Khalik. And I seconded the, you know, what the mayor had said, because we know the
Mm.
mayor. We know, I mean, it's a small town. Everybody knows everybody. So it was neat because just like your space from this morning,
Mm.
um, it popped off a discussion. And I
Nice.
never thought I'd be somebody suggesting that we have a Walmart. I mean, because,
Mm.
you know, Walmart used to be the devil,
Mm-hmm.
and I was there when it was in San Antonio. But this time I
Right.
was like, you know, we might want a neighborhood Walmart.
Mm.
And a couple of people didn't like that.
Mm-hmm.
But they're like, one of them was like, we don't want any Walmart of any kind. You know,
Mm-hmm.
you know, that's terrible talk.
Right.
And another one was more like, we don't want any growth of any kind for
Mm.
the city.
Yeah.
But
That's so interesting.
it was so cool because me and Shanna, I mean, this is our space, and we're
Mm-hmm.
starting to. We know that there's a role for us in kind of the community building stuff,
Cool.
and we got a very unexpected shot with the mayor bringing up something that we had been
Very
thinking
nice.
about as well. So we're moving and we're meeting these people. It's She was like, the guy who was one of the guys on the committee, he was cool. He just talked, balanced everything, even the folks who kind of didn't want growth or whatever. He's like, yeah, so as I dare not say your name, could be Ajani, right? He says, but as you said, you know, we need to control the growth and everything. He says, I remember you were in the paper when
Oh,
when you
nice.
moved here. So you
Cool.
moved, you know, down there. And Shannon was like, I'm a little disturbed that everybody knows where we live. I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
it's small town Georgia.
Yeah, that's the
So,
way it is.
you
Yeah.
know,
No, I look forward to the day, man, when we can go over there and once you get more of the place fixed up and
yeah, yeah,
yeah, we can
yeah,
see it for ourselves because it sounds like I do like the small town the small town environment,
yeah,
man. I think Joanne and I, we like that. You know, you've seen where we live out here, so it's very we're not involved as much in like the local stuff, but
Mhm.
it is very small. You know, you go around
Yeah.
to the same
Yeah.
places, you see the same people all the time. Um, I feel like in a way it was kind of like that where we grew up, just our side of town. Just it was so everybody was really spaced out, but it was very
Hmm.
small. You would just see.
Yeah.
So I think I've just I don't know. I just prefer that. Just kind of.
Yeah.
I mean, I think most of my life where I've
Yeah.
like thrived, it's been in like a small town situation, like even the
Yeah.
Air Force Academy. You know, very
Hmm.
small, kind of intimate group of the same people you see all the time. Um, I think I'll thrive there. But yeah, man, I'm gonna
Yeah.
get ready to cut this off because I've got I still gotta go help Joanna out with something, man. This yeah,
And
it's one
I've
of
got the
those.
dogs. The dogs are barking. They want
Yeah, they
their
want
scheduled
stuff.
stuff.
Last thing that I'll mention that I just came up with this concept yesterday, which I talked a lot at the beginning of this one about the fiction side of AI
Mm.
writing.
Hmm.
On the nonfiction side, it's a lot more challenging because you can't just make things up. You have to
Yeah.
actually
You have to
have
have your facts. Yeah.
facts and research and things like that. So that's what I'm doing right now for a client.
Mm.
I'm
Hmm.
writing his book for him,
Hmm.
business book, narrative style. And I'm
Mm.
putting that
Hmm.
together. So I came up with something yesterday because people are always coming up with little sayings and stuff. I called it a bash book.
Hmm.
And what a bash book is, it's a business adventure, misadventure, success, and help book. It's basically taking your knowledge and
Mm.
distilling it down into a nonfiction
Interesting.
book. So if this is something that if you're listening to this and you want to build authority, you want to build legacy, or you want clarity for yourself, this is just like a personal thing. This is something that I haven't quite refined it yet because I haven't done it. It's not as easy to do because you need actually somebody else's stuff, or you need to like sit down and take a lot of your own stuff and condense it into a book. But damn, we are at this point to where you no longer need to pay an expensive ghostwriter to,
Hmm.
tens of thousands of dollars to write your
Yeah.
story, to where it takes months to years to write one
Yeah.
book. I've been there. Ajani's been there. Ajani's been there several times. It
Hmm.
takes a long time to write a book. It's not
And for those of you who are like, I'm out of a job as a cover designer, it's like, well, maybe you need a new job as a full illustrator using
right.
AI. New job,
Exactly.
just learn how to prompt. And now instead of working hard to do one cover, you can help in ebooks to do full illustrations. You won't be out of a job because
I
that's still
have
an art.
never done any covers in my life. I've produced at least 10 in the last 2 months, and they're all of pretty good quality.
Hmm.
So yeah, Ajani's absolutely right. If you're an artist or an illustrator or something like that, and you're just like, man, I don't know about this AI stuff, become a full stack illustrator.
Hmm.
And from concept to storyboarding to animation, you can animate your own stories now. You don't need to just
Hmm.
supply the art. You could any story that you had in your mind, it's not a large leap from
Hmm.
your art. And your art can stand out because you already have a body of work of art. Like I couldn't call myself an artist like that because I don't have a previous body of work of art. I do have a lot of writing though. So that's why this meta writer concept, I love the meta writer. Oh, man, that's so good. I think I'm going to change my profile right after this on X. Instead of AI writer
Uh,
to meta writer
all
because
right,
I
whatever.
it just sounds so much cooler. And I know there's a chance that people are like, oh, Meta, like working for Meta, the company, but
Nah.
I don't care. I like the
Yeah.
concept of meta writing because that's what that writing in between the lines instead of writing the lines. I love that. Um, yeah, it works on so many levels metaphorically. But if you're interested in this bash book concept that I'm talking about, getting one for yourself or learning how to do it for yourself, hit me up in DM, send me an email, and I'd be happy to walk you through the process because it's not hard. It
Mm.
just what tools, what specifics, getting into the weeds about actually how to put it together. Yeah, it takes some doing. Johnny, you got anything else?
I don't. Sam is trying to talk to the dog barking across the thing. I'm gonna have to
Yeah,
check these
yeah, yeah.
guys. They know I can't do anything about it while I'm recording.
Exactly. They know you're
Uh,
captive. Okay. Yep.
yeah, yeah.
I've got to go too. So thanks for listening to this Two Brothers Talking. Did you know this is our 2-year anniversary episode, by the way?
Really? Did
Two
we
years,
start it?
October 2021.
Really? Yeah, okay, that's cool. And also today is our youngest dog Chico's 4th birthday, so I have to
Oh, wow.
tell him happy birthday and give him
Yeah.
a dog biscuit or something.
Oh, right. The biscuit with a candle on it, right? All right, y'all. Thanks for listening to this episode. Hopefully it was good. We think we talked about a lot of stuff. We always do. So I'm gonna see if this new Zoom summary feature actually worked. So we'll see if I make this editing process a little bit easier. All right.
Yeah.
Until then, take care.
All right.
Bye.
See ya.